point. Good afternoon, members, and welcome to those members of the public and press who are watching the proceedings online. Hope you enjoy the evening. If the live stream does go down at any time during the meeting, we will endeavour to re-establish it and as quickly as we can, but obviously, hopefully that doesn't happen. First item on the agenda is public question time. We have none. The second item is apologies and substitutions.
Thank you, Chair. We have apologies from Councillor Ian Bovington and Councillor Anna Bailey is here as his substitute.
Thank you, Hannah. Obviously, we're missing Councillor Trapp and Councillor Goldsack at the moment.
We're simply going to say that Councillor Trapp has been caught up in an unexpected road diversion. So
Okay. Thank you. But we'll await when they join us, obviously, yeah. Item 3 is declarations of interest. If any members have got any declarations on the agenda, I see none. Then item 4 is to confirm the minutes of the meetings. I'll take them one by one. On the 30th of March 2023. Now, I wasn't at that meeting. I don't know those members who were here. Yeah. No, okay. Yeah, I'm conscious that Emma forewarned me of something. You pre-briefed me about something you wanted to mention about the January. Yeah, okay.
Yes, I wanted to pick up not something in these minutes, but something, an error in the minutes of the committee of the 24th of November. And this error wasn't picked up at the January meeting, but it is nonetheless wrong. And the officers have confirmed that it is wrong. The recorded vote on item 7, community projects, is recorded in the minutes as being 6 votes for, 7 against and no abstentions. However, the recording of the meeting on YouTube correctly gives the outcome of the vote as being 6 votes for, none against and 4 abstentions. That has been confirmed by officers who have reviewed the YouTube footage, and I realise that the minutes have now been agreed as correct, but it would be, I think it's important to have a note in these minutes simply to say that they were not and to note the correct position.
Chairman, I can confirm that's the case. And
I understand via Emma from Tracy Cooper that it's what you said will go in as a statement in the minutes of this meeting. We obviously can't correct previous minutes, but thank you. Yeah. Then moving on to the 25th of May. Any comments on those? Everybody happy with those minutes? Obviously, they were relatively brief. Thank you. In which case, we move on to item 5, Chairman's announcements. The only announcement I've got is obviously we've got Nigel Anchors with us, who will be here and take questions on the trading company, if there are any. Moving on then, statement of community involvement is item 6, and I believe I've got Emma Knight to present it. Emma, welcome to the meeting.
thank you, Chair. I'm Emma Knight. I'm a Senior Strategic Planning Officer here at the District Council. And today we're presenting to you a recommended updated version of the Statement of Community Involvement, or SCI for short. The current SCI is performed as expected, therefore only relatively minor changes have been made. And these changes include changes to dates and a new section on how the District Council will assist in the review of neighbourhood plans. This version, if agreed, will replace the July 2018 version. By law, the District Council is required to undertake a review of the SCI every 5 years. bringing it to committee prior to the 5-year deadline. The SEI sets out how the District Council will consult on planning matters and how it will engage with and support parish and town councils on their neighbourhood plans. It sets minimum standards that can be increased if required and valuable. By ensuring the SEI is up to date, it supports effective community involvement at all stages of the planning process. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma, for that introduction. I see we've had no pre-questions. Do any members have any questions of Emma at this stage? Councillor Whelan.
Yeah, if I could just sort of comment on it. Thank you for bringing this here. What would be really handy is when we're producing these updates, if we could actually see a track change copy of what's going on, so we can actually see what the changes are, because it's never quite clear when someone is just saying, oh, we're making these minor changes. It would be really handy to be able to see them in that way. Same goes with other such policies when we're doing them. I just think it would help tremendously with understanding and actually preventing some confusion.
Yeah, coming on that, Chairman. We'll absolutely do that. What we can do in the future is where there have been track changes, we'll provide you with a clean copy, so you can see a nice clean copy and the track version as well. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Emma. That would be very useful, I'm sure, to members. Any further comments or debate on the report? I'm seeing nothing. I mean, sorry, Councillor Whelan.
If I can come back again then. Just one thing, which is actually looking on agenda item 6, appendix A, page 9. We obviously refer at the top to the various statutory bodies that we're required to consult upon. It then goes on to say there are also people and organisations the council considers it as important to consult with. However, having mentioned some of the protected characteristic groups through this, it doesn't go on to actually commit the council in any way to seeing those as being consultees, and it would seem appropriate that there should be mention in there that all such protected characteristics under the Equalities Act 2010 ought to be mentioned in the paragraph after the bullet points.
Emma, any comments on that?
Turned it off. Just checking. That should be fine, so long as this might be set out in regulations, and I just need to check that that's something we can add. I can't see why not.
To help with that, certainly the bullet points are set out in legislation. The paragraph underneath, as far as I can see, is not covered in legislation.
So
and I think it would just be really good to demonstrate that support for
that's fine.
The other protected characteristics.
That's fine. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bailey.
Sorry, could you just confirm exactly where you were in the document? Sorry, I couldn't find it. Page 9, did you say?
Sorry, and it's the very top paragraph. You've got the bullet points at the top of the page, or one paragraph, then the bullet points, and we're referring to the paragraph underneath to just add that additional item in there. Sorry, this is actually another point being, going slightly off track here. This is where it would be really handy if the documents could be sequentially numbered through. It would make it so much easier to say to people, it's on page 60 or whatever it may be.
Everybody found that. I take the point about, I think this report's been produced, obviously not separately, but as you say, all normally our documents come to us with a paragraph number on, so we can reference it quite easy. Yeah, so I don't disagree with that point. At all. Yes.
I'm just, is that not covered by the bullet points above, frankly? I mean, it says, you know, okay, voluntary bodies, but not but all individuals are consultees in, you know, all our residents are generally consultees, and specific interest groups are covered by the second bullet point, I would have thought. Or is there something missing from that list?
Sorry, apologies, but what it actually refers to is racial, ethnic and national groups, which are not the same as those with protected characteristics. Some of those are. The second bullet point then talks about religious groups. You know, then it talks about disabled groups. But of course, there are many other groups. And that's all I'm saying, is that we're actually excluding groups of people. And it would be really nice to demonstrate our equality.
Yeah, sorry, I've understood it now. So there needs to be an additional bullet point basically saying voluntary bodies which represent the interests of those with protected characteristics under. I mean, I think it's just helpful if we make a specific suggestion.
Yeah, I think we've got general agreement that is that something you can take
Yes,
away
absolutely,
and
something
amend?
we can add to the paragraph below the bullet points.
Okay. So with that addition, we're being asked to adopt in 2.1, we're being asked to adopt the paper with the thankful addition of what's just come forward. Are we happy to adopt that? Can I have a proposer for that? Councillor Hunt. I mean, Councillor Whelan's happy to second it. Okay, thank you. And I'm taking that as unanimous. I don't see any dissenting at all. Thank you. Thank you, members. Thank you, Emma. Thank you for that. And obviously with that change, yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Just to say, I've actually started doing that with Emma, so the process works. So I just thought I'd mention that we've started to do it in practice and it works, I think. So I just thought I'd mention that. So thank you, Emma.
Thank you. Item 7 is the 2022-23 Treasury Operations Annual Performance Review. So if I can hand over to Ian to introduce it. Thank you, Ian.
Thank you, Chair. At the end of the 22-23 financial year, the council had cash holdings of 29.9 million and had loans with ECTC and ECCLT totaling 6.2 million, with no external debt. No external debt was taken out throughout the year, so no external interests were incurred. Interest received in the year totaled £809,000, far higher than budgeted for at the start of the year. The council benefiting from higher interest rates than were anticipated when the budget was set. The committee is recommended to is asked to recommend the report to council for approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. Do I have before we start to go to questions or comments, do I have a proposer? I'm happy to propose that from the chair. Do I have a seconder?
I'm happy to second, Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Reserve my right.
Then if we go to questions, we've got one question on this, which has been tabled in terms of where the budget or for the interest received has come from, and it's from a higher level of cash holdings and increase in interest rates, which wasn't forecast in the budget. So Any other comments or questions, sorry, other questions from members? Councillor Shepherd.
Can I just ask a general one, which is going to come from my ignorance as being the new girl here? And so I've got to try to get my head around all these numbers and what's going on and all the rest of it. So it could be that you tell me to go away and, sit in a dark room for a bit, or rather than get into a worry about it. But it's just a point I noticed when reading these things, that in the results 4.3, the council's loan to ECTC increased to 6 million in March 2023, having been 4.9. Now, I've probably got the wrong end of the stick, but when we read the operations report later, the next item, it says that ETC paid back its 6 million loan in this year. So I'm just a bit confused. Probably it'll all come out when we go through that report, but it seems to me there's a £6 million floating around.
Do you want to answer that, Ian? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure where the 6 million is being paid back for an ECT comes from, because that's not correct. ECTC or ECDC has currently lent through the 6 million to ECTC, and that will be repaid over. It's a 4-year loan facility, and so therefore ECTC will be paying that back over the remainder of that 4-year facility.
Okay, well, perhaps when we come to the operations report, you can put me right where I've got my 6 million incorrect from. Thank you.
Any other questions at this stage? Councillor Hunt.
Can you just confirm, Ian, first of all, congratulations on producing a report, which I'm sure is the envy of many councils in this area. And congratulations on that. Can you just confirm to me that we don't have any external borrowings?
Yeah, I can confirm the council's got no external borrowings, and our MTFS suggests we won't need any external borrowings for the next 3 or 4 years.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Any further comments on the paper? Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, just
second, yeah.
briefly to thank Alan and his team very much for the careful management. Treasury management reports are not the most exciting of subjects normally, but this one much more so than usual, because there is an upside, which obviously, is good for the council, but, not great for people living in very difficult circumstances with inflation increases and all the rest of it. So, it's whilst it's helpful to our medium-term financial plan, it obviously comes, it's painful for other people, the situation that everybody's currently living through, and hopefully we'll start to see inflation going down. But, nevertheless, this is a reflection of very careful stewardship of our finances. So thank you very much, Ian.
Okay, thank you, members. And I've heard you've had traffic problems, Councillor Trapp.
Yes, there was a detour around the Fordham level crossing.
Okay.
Quite inefficient.
Are there any no more comments? We need to got a proposer and a seconder. We're not being asked to recommend this to full council. Do I see any dissenters? I'm taking that as unanimous. Thank you. We just finished item 7, Councillor Trapp, just for your information. Moving on, item 8, the Rural England Prosperity Funding. My notes. Do I have before we start, do I have a proposer for this paper? Sorry. All right, okay. Emma's going to present it first.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm not Martin Smith. Unfortunately, Martin is not available this evening, so I'll present this on his behalf. Just a very short background for members that were not here last year. We applied through the Levelling Up Fund for an expansion to East Space North at Littleport, as well as the cycleway. Unfortunately, that was oversubscribed and our bid was not successful. Subsequent to that, we applied to the Cambridge and Peterborough Combined Authority for a bid for £925,000 towards the expansion of Littleport, which wasn't enough, but we had in mind at the time that the Rural England Prosperity Fund was coming up, so we'd be able to top up the funds through that process. So this is the second time the committee will have contemplated submitting a bid for the expansion of East Base in Littleport. That's before you this evening. Through the questions already submitted in advance, it's just that the next part of the process would be for the Combined Authority Board to make a final decision on the council's behalf, because we can't put the bid forward ourselves to DEFRA. So it's done through the Combined Authority. So what we have here is the expansion of East Base in Littleport. The cycleway doesn't form part of this bid because there's no criteria that it meets through. So what was previously a two-stage bid is now a one-stage bid. It's deliverable within the time frame, which will be 2025, and it's recommended to members that you approve the allocation of £550,000 of the Prosperity Fund in accordance with the report. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Emma. I jumped the gun earlier on. Can I have a proposer for the?
I'm happy to propose.
Councillor Miller, thank you. And I'm happy to second it from the chair. Members, we've had the two questions. Did you want to say anything further on the questions, Emma, or?
I've got nothing to add, Chairman. But
Okay.
the members
No, I was going to then ask Councillor Whelan, do you have a follow-up question or anything further on in respect of the answer you've had?
No, I've got nothing further on there other than to point out that point 3.5 just needs amending. The final few words actually don't scan properly.
And Councillor Trapp, I know you've only just got here, but your question, are you happy with the answer to that question? Pardon?
There was a more exhaustive reply from Martin.
Oh, okay, so you're happy with the information you've had?
We drew this question.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay, well, thank you for that. Members, any other questions? Councillor Hunt.
Well, it's not a question so much as really saying what a wonderful thing East Base North is, and I don't think we could just nod it through without realising what a help it is to people to start up in business, and how imaginative it was when it was first thought of, and how I think it's something we at East Cambs, when everybody else is cutting back, we're encouraging business and we're encouraging startups, and I think it's really to the credit of the area, and also it will help to rejuvenate and bring Littleport to a higher level. I just recommend the option, which there's going to be an assets tour of some of our assets within a month or two, and I'd recommend especially new members to attend that tour and see sort of what we're up to in your name. And so I really draw your attention to this and congratulate the people who are running this, and Emma should be very proud. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, Councillor Dupre.
Thank you, Chair. I've got a couple of comments and a couple of questions. I did find the report very difficult. It was a bit like a jigsaw that didn't have a box and half the pieces were missing. And it was really quite difficult to follow. And I ended up with about, I think, 9 questions to Martin Smith before I could actually pull it together into a shape that gave me the information I needed. And that was disappointing and slightly frustrating. And if that's for me, as someone who's used to reading these reports and also had the back history of the application to the levelling up department, then I dread to think what it must have meant to any member of the public happening on it, who probably had no idea what this was about. That said, the bid that we received here that was going to go, and indeed did go, to DLUC and was not successful, was included in it a cycle link. I'm told, although it's not mentioned at all in here, that that cycle link is not included within this bid. I mean, I expressed doubts at the time about the cycle link, basically that it took you from the railway station to a roundabout and then suddenly stopped, and it was like BP roundabout crossing Fiasco Mark II. But is the first question, is the cycle link still planned? Is it planned out of any other source of funding, or has it been dropped? And to what extent does the success of investing in eSpace depend on creating that cycle link? The second question is that although it didn't mention it in the paper anywhere, it is clear that there is some more money that we have been allocated. What is the administration's plan for the remaining funding that is not included within the 550,000 for this particular project? What does the administration intend to do with the remainder? My other point was going to be about evidence of need, but there is a written question and a written answer about that.
I can deal with it from the officer's perspective, of course. I won't answer for the administration. Is the cycleway dropped? From this element of the scheme, it doesn't fit the criteria to go into it, so there's no potential for funding through the Rural Prosperity Fund. But I never say never for the scheme. We will continue to look for ways to fund that, of course, and it's still on the list because it was identified in the Sustrans report as well. So it's still something that we would look to fund if money became available. We would absolutely put a bid in that fit that. In terms of the remainder of the funds, this would come back to committee, so it will be a matter for speaking to Martin about what could happen with the remainder of the fund, a grant scheme to help rural businesses, but that's just from an officer's perspective. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. My question was what the administration planned to do with it, so I'm wondering, Chair, if you could address that.
At the moment, I'm not aware of what, obviously we haven't made a decision what we're going to do, but obviously, as Emma says, it will come back to a future committee. But I'm sure it's something. Not at the moment, no. Any other comments? Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I just feel the need to address something that's just been said, pretty pejorative description of the BP roundabout fiasco. The BP roundabout upgrade has not been a fiasco. It's been a very, very long, hard fought for project by this organisation in conjunction with Cambridgeshire County Council to deliver massive jobs growth expansion at the Lancaster Way Business Park and Enterprise Zone, supported by the Cambridgeshire and Peterborough Combined Authority and supported financially by this authority. It's not been a fiasco. It's been very, very long, hard fought for by me personally and many others, and has finally, you know, it's there, it's delivered, it's functioning well, it's doing the job that it was designed to do by the County Council, and it has allowed the planned expansion of the enterprise zone in the business park to go ahead, releasing up to 3,000 new jobs relocating at the site. And there have been significant company relocations to Lancaster Way as a result, as a direct result of the work that's been done to both the BP roundabout and the Lancaster Way smaller roundabout, fought for by this authority. It's not a fiasco, it's a well-planned piece of work, long, hard, needed, and without which Lancaster Way Business Park would have had to shut up shop and have no further local jobs growth for local people, to take people off the road network and allow people to work locally. It is well known that the previous mayor of the Combined Authority was fully committed to delivering an active travel solution for people to get over the A10. That was in the local transport plan. The only fiasco that's taken place is the delay caused by the incoming new mayor, who's only just committed funding 2 years into his tenure towards carrying out yet another study on what has been the most studied roundabout in the whole of Cambridgeshire. So that's been the fiasco, I'm afraid.
Thank you. Members, any other comments? No, we're being asked to approve the allocation of £550,000 of ECDC's Rural England Prosperity Funding as set out below, and delegate authority to the Economic Development Manager in consultation with the Chairman of Finance and Assets. Do I have those in favour of that decision? Okay, I think we. Okay. Thank you, Councillor Goldsack. Thank you. Okay, in which case that is carried. Item 9 is the Health and Safety Policy 2023. And I've got Spencer Clark to introduce the paper.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm pleased to present this overarching policy to the committee tonight. There have been only a few minor changes since the policy was last signed off over 2 years ago. But I do need to just bring to your attention a couple of changes which will go to the final document that will not be in your document, in your policies, since you received them. One's just a very simple typo on page 7. There's 2 number 5s. Obviously, we will get the sequencing correct in the final document. And then the second alteration will be in the on page 4, which is the managers supervisors section of their responsibilities. We're going to add a piece in there to include about mental health awareness and staff, and the processes, policies that we've got in place for mental awareness now. So that will go, and that came about after the policy went to the Health and Safety Working Group, which sat after you already got your documents. So that's an inclusion from that. The only other thing I'd just like to add is that the health and safety policy goes through on the induction of all new members of staff when they join the council. That pretty much concludes my update, Chairman. I'm happy to try and take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Spencer. In terms of proposing, as it's a policy, I'm happy to propose this from the chair. Do I have a seconder for that policy? Councillor Lay, thank you. Now, moving on to questions, there is one question which has been asked. It was around bullet point 4.4 in terms of what constitutes a periodical revision and review. So and the answers come back every 2 years, which seems, I would have thought, for a paper of this so is a reasonable sort of period. Are there any other questions from members? Are there any comments that members wish to make? No, I'm seeing nothing, in which case I move to the recommendation, which is we're requested to approve the Health and Safety Policy 2023 as set out. Do I have unanimous vote on that? Thank you. Everybody's in favour. Thank you very much, members. Thank you, Spencer. Moving on to item 10 is representatives on outside bodies. And I've got Caroline to introduce to lead us through this. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. As members will be aware, the council appoints representatives to various outside bodies, and in most cases, those are for 4 years coinciding with the council's election cycle. The appointments are made by this committee and by the Operational Services Committee, according to the remits of those 2 committees. So the group leaders were provided with the list of all required appointments, and the resulting nominations are listed in Appendix 1. In making the appointments, it will be necessary to consider each outside body in turn, because for many of them, the number of candidates doesn't match the number of vacancies. So at that point, we'll go through them one by one. Appendix 2 contains the annual reports from last year from the representatives, and members are asked, please, to appoint the representatives, instruct officers to contact relevant parish councils as necessary for any vacancies remaining on internal drainage boards, and to note the annual reports in Appendix 2.
Thank you, Caroline. So are you going to take us through this?
I'm happy to do that now or after questions. whatever.
Councillor Whelan, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. We would like to just propose one change in the nominations, and that is to move councillor Caroline Shepherd from being proposed to Middle Fen and Near to being proposed on Caudle Fen, if that would be acceptable.
I certainly don't see any issue with that, is there? You're happy with that, yeah? Thank you. Okay, I'll let you lead on.
Okay, so the first one, if we literally go down them in order. So first of all, we've got the A10 Ely to A14 improvement scheme, which is a new outside body, but the county council have asked us to nominate 2 members. And we have 3 nominations, which are councillor Ian Bovingdon, councillor Lorna Dupre and councillor Bill Hunt. Are there any changes to that before we go further? In that case, we'll do it like we do a recorded vote. So I'll say each person's name in turn. And if you could tell me the 2 people that you would like to be represented, and we'll add them up. So councillor Bailey.
Thank you. I would like to support councillor Bovingdon and councillor Hunt.
Thank you. Councillor Dupre.
Yes, sorry.
Sorry, I didn't catch that. Councillor Goldsack.
I'll vote for councillor Ian Bovington and councillor Bill Hunt, please.
Thank you. Councillor Hunt.
Councillor Ian Bovington and councillor Bill Hunt.
Thank you. Councillor Lay.
Councillor Ian Bovington and councillor Bill Hunt.
Thank you. Councillor Miller.
Councillor Ian Bovingdon and councillor Hunt.
Thank you. Councillor Pitt.
Councillor Dupre.
Thank you. Councillor Sharp.
Councillor Bovingdon and councillor Hunt.
Thank you. Councillor Shepherd. Thank you. Councillor Trapp
Councillor Dupre.
and Councillor Whelan.
Councillor Dupre.
Thank you. So we had 6 votes for councillor Bovingdon, 5 for councillor Dupre and 6 for councillor Hunt. Therefore, councillor Bovingdon and councillor Hunt would be the representatives on that one. East Cambridgeshire CLT, councillor Bailey was appointed for a 4-year term that hasn't yet ended, so she remains the representative for that. East of England LGA is the leader of council. The LGA, councillor Huffer was already appointed at annual council. The LGA District Councils Network is the leader of council. Burnt Fen Internal Drainage Board, we could appoint 2 and we have no nominations. Are there any changes to that? So that would be one according to the process for internal drainage boards that I would then contact the relevant parish councils, ask for nominations, and if any are received, that will come back to Finance and Assets Committee at a future date for you to consider those nominations.
On that, Caroline, if members, not necessarily those here tonight, wish to volunteer for that, they could do so.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Caudle Fen Internal Drainage Board, we could have 7 representatives. We have nominations of Christine Colbert, Catherine Holtzman, Christine Whelan and Caroline Shepherd. So that would fill 4 of the vacancies. That leaves us with 3 remaining. The previous councillor Simon Harries could be invited to continue as a layperson should the committee wish to do so. And then there would be the parish councils for me to contact after that.
Members, any thoughts about councillor Harry's being invited as a lay member? Any objection to that? Let's put it like that. No. Okay. And obviously the other 2 vacancies, you'll then speak to the local parish councils. Okay, thank you.
Hadnam Level Internal Drainage Board, we have 1 nomination and 2 vacancies. So councillor Gareth Wilson has been nominated. Are there any further nominations? In that case, I would contact the parish councils for that one as well. if so approved. Little Port and Downham Internal Drainage Board, we have 4 nominations. One is not here, but I've been informed of it since then. So we have Councillor Christine Ambrose Smith, Councillor Lorna Dupre, Councillor Martin Goodall and Councillor David Miller. So there's those 4. It's also been proposed that former Councillor David Ambrose Smith be nominated as a layperson, and that would leave 1 vacancy.
Again, as per Councillor Harries, any objection to Councillor Ambrose Smith, if he wishes to take it up, being good, thank you. And then obviously the other vacancy will come from the parish council.
Yeah. Middle Fen and Mere Internal Drainage Board, we have 5 potential representatives. We now have 4 nominations, which are Councillor Ian Bovingdon, Councillor Mark Goldsack, Councillor Keith Horgan and Councillor Lucius Bellicott. And then we also have that former Councillor Alec Jones had already expressed a willingness to continue should there be a vacancy.
Members, are you happy with that? Yeah. Okay, thank you. So we approach Councillor Jones as if you, yeah, sounds like he wants to continue.
Chair, I'll just point out that if you go to Salem Town Council and ask for representatives, Alec Jones is a member of Salem Town Council anyway, so it'll probably be him that they put forward. So I think it's a really good shout.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Goldsack.
For Padnell and Waterden, we have 7 representatives and we have 1 nomination of Councillor Alison Whelan, which leaves us with 6 vacancies. There are 2 former councillors who could be invited to continue, who are David Ambrose Smith and Liz Every.
Okay, again, as previous, we will approach those 2 ex-members to see if they wish to continue. Yeah, and then obviously the rest trying to get from the parish councils.
Swaffham Internal Drainage Board, we have 4 positions and 5 candidates. So we will do a vote as before. If it remains the same, we have Councillor David Brown, Councillor Charlotte Kane, Councillor Lavinia Edwards, Councillor Alan Sharp and Councillor John Trapp. That remains the same, then we'll do the recorded vote sort of style of voting. So if you could tell me, as I say your name, if you could tell me up to 4 candidates that you would like to go forward as the representatives. Councillor Bailey.
I would like to support Councillor David Brown, Lavinia Edwards, Alan Sharp and John Trapp.
Thank you. Councillor Dupre. Yeah, up to 4. Thank you. Councillor Goldsack.
I would like to vote for Councillors Brown, Edwards, Sharp and Trapp, please.
Thank you. Councillor Hunt.
I'd like to vote for David Brown, Lavinia Edwards and Alan Sharp.
Thank you. Councillor Lay.
David Brown, Lavinia Edwards, Alan Sharp and John Trapp.
Thank you. Councillor Miller.
Councillors Brown, Edwards, Sharp and Trapp.
Thank you. Councillor Pitt.
Councillor Kane and Trapp.
Thank you. Councillor Sharp.
Councillor Brown, Edwards, Sharp and Trapp.
Thank you. Councillor Shepherd.
Councillors Kane and Trapp, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Trapp.
Councillors Brown, Kane, Sharp and Trapp.
Thank you. And Councillor Whelan. Thank you. We have 7 votes for Councillor Brown, 5 votes for Councillor Kane, 6 votes for Councillor Edwards, 7 votes for Councillor Sharp and 10 votes for Councillor Trapp. So the 4 representatives will be Councillors Brown, Edwards, Sharp and Trapp. There is 1 vacancy on the Water Beach Level Internal Drainage Board. It will go to the parish councils if necessary. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Caroline. That was item 1.11, 1.11. We've now got 1.12 to receive the annual reports. Are there any Comments on those reports? Councillor Trapp.
I thought I'd sent a report in, but over the changeover of things, I missed it out. I'm sorry about that.
Okay, thank you, councillor Trapp. Any other comments? No, I'm seeing none. We're being asked to its recommendations on 2.1 to appoint the representative appointed as we've just gone through, that the Senior Democratic Services Officer be instructed to contact the relevant parish councils about the vacancies and then to note the reports. I'm happy to propose that from the chair. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hunt. All those in favour? Okay, thank you, members. That's unanimous. We move on to item 11, which is the assets update. I believe that's over to Spencer again.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a few updates for noting members. The depot improvement works are now approximately 4 weeks into the works programme. All's going quite well so far. We're having regular contractor meetings to make sure that there's no implications of disruption to any of the services that obviously operate out of the depot. And so far, so good. It all seems to be going really nicely. Second update is since the CCTV was fitted to some public toilets, we've had no more cases that have been reported to us of any vandalism or any antisocial behaviours. I think that's really, really good news. And leading on from that is the Changing Places pod that is intended to go adjacent to the public toilets in Soham. The tenders have now closed and they have been evaluated by the grant funding body to be all fit for purpose. So the next stage is now to go through the scoring process and then start to award the contract. I think the only other thing I'd just like to bring to your attention is that the sluice artwork down at the Riverside in Ely will be taken away during this next month for repair. It will be away for quite a few weeks, so it might raise a bit of attention in Ely that it's gone missing, but that's the reason why I just want to raise it at this point in time. And apart from that, Chairman, I'm happy to conclude there and happy to take any questions if I may.
Thank you, Spencer. We've had two questions and I'll take them in order. Councillor Whelan, you submitted a question. Are you happy with the response or do you want to follow up or?
No, thank you very much for the response on that. And obviously, not actually a question to the officers in any way whatsoever. It would be good to hear this committee actually condemn the incidents of hate crime which have actually resulted in damage to our buildings. 3 consecutive weeks that damage was caused to that building purely on the basis of hate. And it would be good to see this committee condemn that kind of behaviour.
Thank you, Councillor. I mean, from the chair, I would certainly condemn any sort of hate crime. I don't know too much about the details, to be honest, but yeah. Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, just obviously echo that sentiment totally. And following on from that, just to thank our officers and I think place on record our thanks to Soham Town Council as well for the extensive efforts following the appalling behaviour that took place in Soham around the public conveniences, which went, there were a number of incidents. It was ongoing. It was pretty traumatic for a member of staff and thoroughly unpleasant for people to have to deal with. And I think there's been a very positive response by working together with the town council and trying to take things forward in a much more positive manner. So it's really good to hear that things are calm there, and let's hope that it stays that way. And thank you for all the hard work, because very unpleasant situation to have to deal with.
Thank you, Councillor Bailey. Councillor Trapp, you submitted a question. Are you happy with the response, or do you want to follow? Okay, fine, yeah. In that case, members, any other questions of? All right, in which case, any comments on the paper? No, I'm seeing nothing, in which case we're asked to note it, so there's no need to vote on that. We're just asked to note the paper. Thank you, Spencer. Thank you. Item 12 is the finance report, and if I can ask Ian to introduce that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The report shows a council underspend for the 22-23 financial year of 1.747 million. However, it should be noted that while all service expenditure is correct, we still await a final position on the business rates pool from the pool administrator. The figure in this report is only provisional. If the figure changes, I will update committee at its September meeting of the final position. Members are asked to approve the carry forward of slippage on the capital programme as detailed in Appendix 3. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. The 2.1 is for noting, but we do have a recommendation for approval on 2.2. So do I have a proposer? Councillor Hunt, and do I have a seconder? Councillor Bailey, thank you. Moving on then to we've had 5 written questions submitted, and again, I'll take them in order of the paper is written. I don't know if you want to do, the first 3 are Councillor Whelan's. I don't know if you want to do them in whatever order you wish to do them.
No, it's absolutely fine. In actual fact, I had actually said not to table some of these because the answers actually were straightforward once we got them, but that's absolutely fine.
Okay, so you're happy with the responses you've had?
Yeah.
Okay, moving on, Councillor Trapp.
Yes, I mean,
I'm aware that the chief executive did seek comments from group leaders about the electoral process. Unfortunately, I'm not clear on what the process is going forward for that. I will find out and come back to members. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. Are you happy with that response, Councillor Trapp?
yes, thank you very much.
And obviously, if need be, we'll get a report back to this committee if there's a, depending on what the outcome of that.
Yeah.
I'll check with the chief
reported.
executive.
Yeah,
what his
thank you.
intentions were.
I think we should have the report back, yes.
On this point, is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Just to confirm that I did submit quite extensive feedback to that process, and I was grateful for the invitation and offer to do so. And I agreed that it would be good for members to have some feedback on some of the issues that arose during that process because they were quite numerous.
Thank you. Obviously, I've not been involved in that, but I'm happy to take that.
As you say, Chairman, we'll take it away and
Yeah,
find out what
please.
the chief executive's intentions are
okay.
going forward.
And then the last, you've got 2, sorry, Councillor Trapp, you had 2 questions. Are you happy with the second one?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions from members? Councillor Shepherd.
Have you finished with all the written ones? So, okay, I'm conscious that I'm new to these numbers and figures, and so there'll be an awful lot that I've probably just simply misunderstood. And I just wondered if I could just ask a few little questions just to clear up a few things. Because after all, these are for the public to read anyway, and they are complicated. And so if I'm asking things which you all know the answer for and you're heartily sick of, then please say and take me out afterwards. and
Can I
explain.
come in there? There is no such thing as a stupid question. Please ask as many questions.
I don't want to
because there'll be
take up
members of the
people's
public
time
watching who won't know the answer either.
If I've simply got the wrong.
Please
end of
ask
the
them.
stick. So I have got a number, is that okay?
Perfectly fine.
Well, the first thing I note from seeing this is that we have underspends in revenue and capital. And when you look at the breakdown of all of that, I noticed that some of these are quite significant. And I wondered, it's one thing to have a number, which is an accounting number. For example, some of the underspends are due to the fact we get a treasury uplift because of interest rates. Well, that's just an accounting number, which is brilliant, but it's, you know, what's interesting is what are the effects on the projects on which these budgeted numbers were for. And so if you've got for example, housing strategic, for example, and you've got 206,000 underspend, which is quite significant, and it's due to staff vacancies. You've got something called general gang, and I'm really sorry, I don't know what general gang is, but it's not a huge amount, but that was just that. But and then there's the 2 million for the waste, but I've got another question about that. So my question is, if you're having underspends in your revenue, in your ongoing daily projects, and these are to do with quite often staff vacancies, what is the impact of that on those projects for which this budgeted revenue spend is for?
I mean, clearly individual budget lines will be impacted in different ways, but the council reports its performance against its targets through the service planning process, and this council will get reports on for the services under its supervision as part of the service planning process in I think November meetings and then at the end of the year.
Right, so there's nothing that we can compare the end of year financial underspends with the end of year kind of activities report.
Sorry, I mean, the committee will have received service planning end of year reports at a previous meeting, but the two things aren't presented as one report because, you know, clearly finance is and performance may be linked in some ways, but equally may have no correlation at all in other ones. So we present finance and performance information in separate reports.
Right, so I'll have to go away separately and try and marry up the effect of underspends on activity. Okay. Another thing then was on the 2 million for the waste vehicles. And I realize there's something going on with waste wheels. I don't know anything about that, but I gather something is. But I noted that you've got a line which says borrowing 2 million quid. And that was for the year, against which you've spent nothing. And then you've got waste vehicles, 2 million quid, for which you have got a 2 million quid underspend. So I just to be clear, do you have a 2 million borrowing facility, or have you borrowed 2 million, or is the borrowing still there? And why have you had it for a whole year without having spent any of it?
We haven't purchased waste vehicles in the year because we've been waiting for the government's waste review to take place. As I'm sure you're aware, the vehicles are now ordered and will be received in this financial, and we will get them in this financial year. The borrowing detailed in this report is just how we fund, or how we would have funded the vehicles if we had purchased them. We have not taken out any borrowing in any way. That is just how we will fund them as in when they get purchased. So it's how the funding is detailed isn't a cash transaction at that point. The cash transaction takes place as in when the vehicles are purchased.
And that borrowing would have been from?
Well, at the moment, we're doing all our borrowing from internal resources.
From reserves, whatever. Yeah, okay. Right, okay, that's fine. And then another thing is this confusion about the £6 million. If we go to, oh, by the way, slippage, I assume means underspend carried forward. Thank you. You see, I've got to get the jargon. Okie dokie. Now, where was it about the 6 million quid, about the borrowing? 3.7. Thank you. Right, again, I just didn't understand. It said that you had a full loan facility approved of 7.5 million. However, as it turned out, in reality, 6 million was actually down by ECTC. This allowed them to fully repay all loans outstanding with the combined authority. So I'm a bit confused about the 6 million quids.
I mean, it is detailed in one of the answers from Councillor Whelan that the council has given given a loan facility to ECTC of 7.5 million. And what this is saying is at the end of 22-23 financial year, of that 7.5 million, 6 million have been drawn down by the by ECTC, and so therefore the council still has available to ECTC if they choose to take it 1.5 million of loan. And as I said in the previous answer, the loan facility is for 4 years, and so therefore the expectation and
But they've paid the £6 million back, you say?
No, they will be paying the £6 million back over the course of the next 3 years.
When it says this allowed, past tense, them to fully repay all loans outstanding. Are those different loans?
Yeah, they're the combined authority loans.
So that's a different loan to the 6 million?
Yes. Yeah.
With respect, that's not hugely clear if someone's reading this for the first time. I know it's complicated, I know numbers are awful, but it's not clear. One tiny little thing, there is a misprint, the dreaded typo. You've got something in red, which I assume should be in black. I haven't added up the numbers, but I imagine if I were to, it's on the revenue variance. You've got an underspend in red when it should be an overspend. Sorry, can you find it for me? Building regulations. Yes, it's on, where's that one? The top number. Yeah, there we go. Building regulations. It's agenda item 12, appendix number 2, operational services budget monitoring. You see, I have read this thing, and building regulations has got an 11.839 underspend, and as I said, I'm confident it's only a typo, but it should be in black. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Shepherd. Do you want to come in? Yeah.
All I was going to say is, Councillor Shepherd, I mean, if you want to go through, have a one-to-one with me to go through the figures, you're more than welcome to do that.
I will take you up on that. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Councillor Goldsack.
Thank you. Just a quick point, Ian, if you don't mind. On business rates, when I read the report, I looked at it, understood virtually everything, and have some sympathy with Councillor Shepherd because this is my second term and I'm still trying to go with it. But the council has benefited from additional Section 31 grant than that budgeted and an approved position compared to the prudent budget. I just wondered if you could explain that in SOAM language so that I can understand it, if I can ask.
The position on business rates has been quite confused for a number of years because of the COVID pandemic and the fact that government provided relief to businesses during the COVID pandemic, which made our accounting for business rates quite more complicated than it would be normally. Because of that, I was quite prudent in the way I budgeted for business rates, particularly in relation to the pool, because the pool is business rates across the whole of the county, which we have an arrangement with government that Cambridgeshire pools its money, and which gives us as a overall area gives us a benefit of doing that. But clearly, if one of the other areas in the pool includes Peterborough, their business rates just went down, it would impact how much we'd get from the pool. So again, I budget quite prudently for that. And as a consequence of those two things, we've managed to get significantly more business rates in than not, yeah, which is good. As I said in my introduction, the business rate pool figures are still being reviewed by the pool administrator, and so that's the figure which may change slightly if one of them does, but obviously I'll report back to that in September meeting.
A follow up on just for clarity so that I understand this. So business rates across Cambridgeshire are collected in a central area, which you're referring to as the pool, and then they're divvied out what per district, or is that, have I got that right?
No, we're still responsible for collecting our own business rates, and we do that. But what would normally happen is that a significant amount of those business rates would go back to central government. What happens in the pool arrangements is those are retained locally, and then so we get so the council area gets the benefit of some of those, in a lesser amount goes back to government.
Okay, thank you, Ian. Thank you, councillor Goldsack. Any other questions? Any other comments on the finance report? The 2.1 we're asked to note, so we don't need a vote on it, but 2.2 we're asked to approve. The carry forward. Oh, did you want to speak? Sorry, councillor.
That's okay, just in seconding and just to give a little bit more context to the thing about the loans. And because I can see how, when you haven't been sitting with the history of how this has all come about, how it might seem quite weird and complicated. It is a really good thing because the combined authority loaned money to the district council, and district council to the trading company, and directly to the trading company, I think. Even I can't remember the long history of it all. But basically that has facilitated the development of, for example, the Hadnam Community Land Trust site, which Palace Green Homes, which is part of East Cambs Trading Company, did the project management and build out for delivering, local homes to local people. It facilitated the refurbishment of the 88 empty, dilapidated properties that were an eyesore and antisocial behaviour at the old MOD site up at the Princess of Wales Hospital in Ely into what is now a beautiful and inhabited site. What it also did is meant that instead of any interest payments on those loans, disappearing into Barclays Bank or something, they have stayed in the public purse, because the district council has, I think in total now, paid something like £1.8 million in interest to the combined authority, and significant levels of interest back to the district council from the trading company. So that the interest payments have stayed in the public purse for the good of community use and community benefit. So it's all round been a good enterprise. But
Could I just ask, is there an internal trade interest rate?
It has to be done at a market
rate,
competitive rate. Yeah, exactly. And so, I think, 4 years on from making a lot of these arrangements, I think it's proven to be a very good thing, because the district council has delivered new homes for people. A lot of those affordable homes, well, all of the affordable homes have been reserved for local people with ties to the area who are struggling to get into housing locally. And the interest, instead of going to a private developer or private organisation that's loaned money, and any profits have been retained by the public purse in one form or another. So for me, it's been a very good piece of work, and something to look back on and be proud of.
Thank you, councillor Bailey. Thank you, councillor Shepherd, for your comments in that debate. As I say, moving back, 2.1 is noting, 2.2, we need to approve the carry forward of the capital budgets. Do I take that as everybody's in approval of that? I'm seeing no dissented voices, so I take that as unanimous. Thank you. Item 13 is the Health and Safety Annual Report 2023, and it's Spencer again.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm being greedy tonight. Right, I'm pleased to present this health and safety report, which for the first time includes a section on our mental health first aider program, which we were quite overwhelmed with the number of people that came forward to be trained. And we have now 16 people in place trained for supporting our members of staff. That's a really positive start to the program. In addition to this, we've got a new code of practice, which is the body worn cameras. And I can now say that all the roles that were identified that were in need, or that we felt were in need of a body worn camera permanently, have now been identified and they have been issued. And we also keep a small pool of cameras for responsive reactive type when needed by members of staff as requested. Moving forward onto the performance part of the report, I'd just like to be noted that the benchmarking against Cambridge City figures, it should be noted that they do not include any accident reports from their waste services, because their waste services carried out by South Cams, and they were unable to give us any data to help fill in the benchmarking. And finally, I'd just like to say that all the actions in the action plan were completed, which was quite a strong continuation of support we get from David Vincent as the Health and Safety Manager. That pretty much concludes my update, Chairman, but I'm happy to try and take any questions that may arise.
Okay, thank you, Spencer. This paper is just for noting, so we need no proposal or seconder, but looking at, we've had 5 questions. Councillor Trapp, you submitted 4. Are you happy with the answers? Do you want any follow-ups on those?
Microphone. Well, if that does seem to be that there isn't a comparison between Cambridge City Council, because they're reporting a different safety record. So I'm not sure why we're actually making that comparison, actually, because they're not including their staff, the waste services. And it seems, looking at the data, it seems the waste services are the main source of our long-term sickness. So that's maybe it's the wrong thing. You know, we shouldn't have that as comparison. And we are including ECDC, ECSS, and ECTC in this. I think, is that right? In these.
That's correct.
So even though they're separate entities, we're looking at the whole 3 groups.
That is correct.
Right. Okay. I think rather than 83 working days, which I think is unfortunate, it might have been better if one said, look, there was someone ill for 59 days, another one for 11 or whatever it is. So give a picture, whereas 83 seems to be quite a lot. So it might be actually saying there's something wrong with actually, it might be better to have the individuals, the 3 individuals, how much each of them was out.
So be looking for more detail.
Yes, because it actually gives more information.
Okay.
Thank you very much, then.
Thank you, Councillor Trapp. And the other question is about the long-term absences, which I think is answered, and percentages. Any other questions, members? Thank you. No, but I'm just, I don't see any more questions. So now I will go to debate if you want to come in, Councillor Goldsack.
I just want to say on reading this, how impressed I was at the level of detail you've gone down to. I'm particularly delighted at the point you raised on the mental health signposting. I know they do a bit more than signposting, but that's the most critical aspect for us. So I just want to congratulate everybody involved in that. I thought that was a really good effort. Well done. Thank you.
Councillor Dupre, you would.
Thank you. The covering report says at the top of its 2nd page that the council does not take responsibility for health and safety matters relating to ECTC and ECSS, and that each organisation is responsible for their own health and safety obligations. However, we have a single contact officer. We have all 3 logos on the health and safety report. We have a corporate health and safety emergency planning manager responsible for supporting all 3 services. And the shared service with Fenland District Council supports all three services, according to section 1 of the annual report. We then have a list of 12 codes of practice, and it's not clear whether those are entirely the council, but it doesn't say that they're not. And I suspect, looking at them, that some of them are probably not the council. Similarly, for the training list at section 2.2. We then have in 2.3.2 first aid, and it talks about the council's buildings, but then goes on to talk about the depot and business centres. And the depot is, it may be a council building, but it's not used as part of a council, as the council's service. It is the depot used for ECSS functions. Similarly, mental health first aid, it's not clear whether that applies across just the council or whether it's the council and ECSS and ECTC. The health and safety working group in 2.4 has representation from the council and ECSS and ECTC. And the group reviews and comments on codes of practice, but it then says that those are determining the council's priorities. Does it discuss codes of practice that also apply to staff at ECTC and ECSS? It's not clear. Occupational health commenced work with the council according to 2.5, but then the surveillance checks that it talks about cover ECDC, ECSS and ECTC. The performance statistics, the RIDDOR injuries, there's a single report at 3.3 that appears to cover all three functions. Similarly, 3.4. Health and safety performance to March 2023 in 4 there, it's not clear what the action plan covers, which organisations. The whole thing it starts out by stating that there is a separation and that each of those three bodies is responsible for its own functions, and then reports back in a total mishmash where it's impossible to distinguish what is being covered by whom and which bits apply to what. And it seems to me that if there is a genuine separation, then the reports ought to make that separation. And this report just doesn't. And I think it's fair to say that's not unique to this report, but it's actually very common across the council as a whole that there seem to be so many blurred lines everywhere.
Thank you, Councillor Dupre. Yeah,
Through you, Chairman. I think what the report is setting out to do is to confirm that the trading companies are solely responsible for their own health and safety. The council is not liable for the health and safety of the trading companies whatsoever. What this report seeks to do is bring together information across the three companies so that we can do some benchmarking across other things. If you notice, in previous years, we've reported 0, and that's because the council's accident rate is 0. If you bring that to the report, it's quite, when you're trying to compare it to others, yours is 0, theirs is 89. So you haven't got that basis of comparison. So it's brought together for reporting purposes. In terms of the advisories, it's about sharing resources practically. David Vincent will provide advice to the council because that's what he's predominantly employed to do. And then the trading companies will also seek advice from David Vincent, but he's there in an advisory capacity. This is what's relevant, trading companies. Do you follow through that? Codes of practice, for example, they are relevant to the council and the trading companies alike. But again, the code of practice make it clear when it's council, when it's trading companies. So, and the health and safety group is a group of officers that come together to discuss best practice and how to share experiences and things like that. So I note your comments that it's not always clearly set out. What we're seeking to do is make sure that the best practice is done across both the trading companies and the council as a whole. But what the report set to do was make sure that it was clear that each of those entities is responsible for its own health and safety. So the council is not liable for either of the trading companies' health and safety. So it doesn't come back to the council, but it's good practice to share experiences with other organisations and to have a common theme in the codes of practice that we develop. Thank you, Chairman.
You wish to come back?
Yes,
I can see, yeah.
if I can come back, I don't have any quibble with benchmarking, with comparing notes, with agreeing common policies, standards, codes, all of that. What I'm saying is that in the report, that is completely unclear for most of the way through. There's no separation in some places where there needs to be separation so you can see what's happening. And if something is applicable to all three organisations, it needs to say it's applicable to all three organisations. And what I think we need in reports like this is an approach that starts from the fact that they are or are supposed to be three separate organisations with their own responsibilities, and that the report is clear at every stage, at every section, whatever it's talking about, which of those bodies is covered by that and what it relates to. Otherwise, you can't benchmark between different parts of the organisation if it's not at all clear which bits it's referring to. So it's about being clear from the outset. I'm not saying we need three separate reports. I'm not saying each organisation needs three separate health and safety managers. I'm not saying that. I'm saying there is an attitude throughout the report that it just doesn't seem to matter who's, which bit we're talking about. And we need to be very clear if there is that separation, as I think there probably should be. And as the council appears to think there is.
Through you, Chair, I'll take those comments and feed them back to the health and safety manager and see how we can make it clear in the reporting going forward. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Emma. Yeah. Any other comments, members? No, Councillor Trapp.
Actually, just as a follow-up to what I said, it seems to me in 3.4, this is Appendix 1, page 8 and page 9. There's a total of 83 employee working days, which is all due to ECSS. So it's actually very good that ECDC has had no employees working days lost due to accidents, and this I think actually augments what Councillor Dupre has been saying, that is an important thing. It's all in ECSS, and it looks to me as if one employee has had a slip, trip, or fall and lost 63 days. Another one was struck by an object and has had 11 working days absent. And another one is manual handling. Is that right?
Correct, yes.
Okay, so in fact, actually, there is a distinction there, but it's, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Trapp. I'm seeing no further hands, so we're being asked to note this report. So it's duly noted. Thank you, Spencer. We move on to item 14, which is the forward agenda plan. Do you wish to make any comments, Emma? No comments from Emma. Any comments from members? No, thank you. In which case, that is the end of the public part of the meeting. And I'd like to thank those members of the press and public who are watching online. And hopefully you enjoyed what we were saying or got some interest in what we were saying, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you for your attendance. Yeah, I'll wait for Carol.